Okay, well, I've had some people inquire and ask about my seasoning process. Now, a lot of people have their own process and little tricks and stuff like that. Uh, Today I'm going to be seasoning. This is a 3-notch Lodge, number 10, and then an unmarked favorite chicken fryer. Now, I clean these, scrub them, dry them, and I actually put them on the stove top after drying them, warm them up, and I put a thin layer of Buzzy Wax on them, take them off and wipe it off. So it kind of saves a step in initial seasoning. Now, I had the oven preheated to 500 degrees. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these in the skillet and chicken fryer upside down, the lid probably just like this. Put them in there for, I'd say, 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. Take them out, wipe off all the excess oil, put them back in at 500 degrees for an hour. Some people do an hour and a half. Some people do less than an hour. Like I said, most people have, their own little tricks and ways of doing it. So what I'll do is I'll get these in the oven here, and then, like I said, 2 to 3 minutes, I'll take them out and wipe off all the excess oil. This oven here is kind of small, so I can only do so many pieces at once. Okay, well, I just took these out. It's been about 3 minutes or so, and you can kind of see a little bit of excess oil in there. If I were to just let that in there without taking out and wiping down, you would get some spotting. There's some in there too. Get some spotty and be kind of sticky and gooey. So, like I said, I'll usually take them out and just wipe them down real good, stick them back in for an hour. Now, when I'm wiping out the piece after I take it out for the initial seasoning, I like to wipe with a paper towel. And pretty much you just want to keep wiping like you're trying to dry it real good. And you can see the oil in there. I just keep wiping so I don't see any more oil in the paper towel. And that keeps it from spotting up and looking like crap after you're all done with it. And you have to strip and redo it. So, like I said, I just wipe it down real good. And then when you think you have it all off, I wipe it down again. And then stick it back in the oven. I just put them back in there. Like I said, I'll let them sit in there for an hour. I do 500 degrees. I'll take them out after an hour and put them on the rack here and just let them cool down, like I said, for a couple minutes, maybe 2, 3, 4, or 5 minutes, depending on. I do my seasoning in the garage, so it just depends on the air temperature outside. But just so it's cool enough I can still handle with my shirt. And I'll put another layer of seasoning on. Like I said, I use Buzzy Wax. You use whatever. I mean, I used to use Crisco a lot, and that does fine. People use grapeseed oil, canola oil. Some people use lard. I mean, use whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you like. There's no right or wrong as far as that goes. Just, I would use a high smoke point oil. I won't use something like vegetable oil or something like that. After I get it back in the oven, then I'll put it back in for an hour. Do the same process. I find that the Buzzy Wax, most pieces I can usually just have to do 2 or 3 coats. A lot of times the last coat, if the pieces are looking good enough, I will take them out and do the process, putting the layer on, wiping it out real good, and I'll actually stick it back in the oven and turn the oven off and just let them sit in there with the oven off, overnight or for the rest of the day or whatever, and kind of just let them cool down with the process of eliminating the heat. So that usually gives it a pretty good dark color. You keep your temperatures up no matter what oil you're using to give you a little bit darker of a color instead of getting like a brown color. Doesn't mean anything if it's brown, it's still usable. And just people like to have that dark gray or black color. So now when I season, I use Buzzy Wax probably 90% of the time. Waffle irons and such, maybe like bigger Dutch ovens, I'll use PAM spray, canola spray. The Buzzy Wax, we had the tins and we had the discs. I usually use the tins And I use 100% cotton old cut up t-shirts, and I've been using these for quite some time, so I really don't need to use a lot of Buzzy Wax because it gets saturated into the shirts themselves. And when I season, I'll take these out after an hour, take everything out, and I'll set them on my rack. Maybe let them cool for like 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, just so it's, you know, cool enough I can still handle, but I'll still use a t-shirt for one to hold, and then the other to season. And then I'll put a layer of Buzzy Wax on them. On the first one, set it off to the side, work on the second one, depending on how many pieces I'm on, third one, fourth one, whatever. Once I get them all done, then I'll go back to the first one that I started and then wipe it down real good, put it in the oven for another hour at 500 degrees. The lids can be tricky too because you have all these spacers on the inside of the lid, and you want to make sure that, you know, every little crack and crevice that you get dried off good, all the excess oil on before you put it back in. Otherwise, oil is just going to cake on there when you put it in the oven to season it, and then it's just not going to look good. So it'll still be functional, just, you know, for the people who want their pieces to look nice. That's kind of what you want to do, is wipe everything down real good before you put it back in. Some people cycle their ovens. They're seasoned for an hour or whatever. Turn off the oven, let the pieces cool for an hour or whatever, take them out, put a layer of whatever they're using to season on there, put it back in, cycle the oven back up to temperature, and do it for another hour. Some people will do one piece at a time. I mean, everybody has their own little system, its own little process. I like to just keep the oven on so it doesn't cycle, so I don't have to worry about cycling so much. It saves a little bit of time as far as seasoning goes. And you're only losing a couple minutes in between layers.